Hello, and welcome back to yet another retro channel. Today we'll be looking again at the Timex Sinclair 1000, and I've done a little more research online, and I have figured out how to go about loading software. But for a moment, let's look at something else. This computer, as you know, I've said it before, the Timex Sinclair 1000 came with 2K of RAM, so we can verify that by putting in a little line of code here. Now, what this is going to tell us is it's going to show us the top of user memory. The first 16K holds the ROM, it holds, I think, some IO port space, but starting after 16K is where the user memory starts. So what we should expect to see here is 2048 bytes above 16K. And when we hit enter, the response you see is 18432. 18432 is 2048 bytes above 16K. So you can see we've verified that this machine has 2K of RAM. Now, how useful is 2K of RAM? Not particularly, but you can do some things with it. So as I said, I figured out how to load software. I've built the jankiest of little cables to hook to my cell phone, and it will allow me to load software. To do that, I load, quote, quote. Now, when I hit enter on this, the screen will go blank. That's because one of the cost-saving measures for the ZX81, the ZX80, and the Sinclair 1000 that they took was that this machine has no dedicated video driver circuit. The Commodore 64 has its VIC-2, the VIC-20 has the VIC, the Atari 2600 has the TIA, the TI-99 has the TMS 9918, I believe it is, or 9929 for PAL. They all have chips whose job is to read what's in the video RAM and display it on the screen. With the ZX81, the Sinclair 1000, they don't have that. That chip would have been an additional cost that they figured they could save. So between in the ZX81, Sinclair 1000, between the CPU and the ULA, that's how it creates video. The CPU determines what should be displayed, and then the ULA does the actual conversion to an analog signal so that it can be displayed on the screen. That ties up a lot of the CPU's time. So when it has to do something like run a program, like load a program, it has to stop processing the screen. The ZX81 and the Sinclair 1000 with their ULA, they do have a slight advantage over the original ZX80. The ZX80 could only do that. The ZX81 and the Sinclair 1000, they have both a fast and slow mode, and I forget which mode it is, but in one of the modes, things operate a little differently. What happens is that when the computer needs to do something, like in a program, when running a program, when the computer needs to do something, well, let's put it this way. In the ZX80, if I type a key, you would see the screen flash off and on. In the case of the ZX81, that doesn't happen because in the mode it's currently in, it draws the screen, and then while it's doing it's at least the horizontal refresh. It might be the vertical refresh as well. While those refreshes are happening, which is when the scan lines are moving back to their origin positions. So in the case of the horizontal synchronization, horizontal refresh, it's moving back from the right side of the screen to the left. In the case of vertical refresh, it's moving all the way from the bottom of the screen to the top. During those times, the processor doesn't need to be telling the video part of the ULA what it needs to do. It's waiting for those refreshes to happen. So while it's doing those refreshes, then it performs other operations. So with the ZX81 and the Sinclair 1000, you don't get that screen flashing every time you press a key because it's handling that activity during the refresh and then going back to drawing the screen. At any rate, what you're going to see when I load this program is you're going to see the screen go blank for the length of time it takes to load, and then it'll come back. I don't know if you can see well enough, but the audio file, it's a WAV file, is playing back on my phone, playing back into the ear input of the computer. And it should pop back up any moment now. And there you go. It has loaded the program. Now this is a 1K program, so it doesn't do much. I can hit go and it will play Othello with itself. I assume there's a way to play against the computer, but I haven't explored this game very much. I just wanted to show that I could load software and get it to run. Now, again, this is a 2K machine. This is a 1K program, so this is very limited in what it can do currently. So we need to find a way to add some more memory to this machine. Now, there are several ways to do that. Two primary ways. One, the way that most people did it, was through this RAM expansion adapter. This will bring the machine up to 16 kilobits of RAM. This is a Timex Sinclair 1016, and it goes in the expansion port on the back of the computer. Connects to the card edge connector. Now, if I bring the computer back, if I can plug it in correctly. Now, if we run the same print peak command that I ran earlier, this time we should see something on the order of 32K, because again, the bottom 16K are used by the ROM and several other things. So the usable user RAM starts at 16K up to 32768. So you see we have now 16K of RAM in this machine. Now the problem, these were a good solution, but the problem was that they're a little bit wobbly. And what would happen would be you'd be typing away, punching in your 16K program, and you'd get somewhere along the way, the machine would wobble, the cartridge would wobble, and it would cause the machine to either hang up or crash. So you'd lose your work. So these, while they did do the job of giving you 16K, they were a questionable solution because of the wobble issue. But I'm going to load another program for you now. All right. Now, this will take a while. This is a much bigger program. This is a 16K program, so I'll speed this up. And there you go. We've loaded a 16K program. So, I haven't played this. I don't know how it works. I don't know how to jump. Okay, well, you get the idea. So you can do a lot more on this machine with 16K than you could with just the standard 1K for the ZX81 or 2K for the Timex Sinclair 1000. But you have the additional problem with this module of possibly causing a crash or a hang-up. So what was the other solution? Well, the other solution is right here. These are 62256 static RAMs. That's 8 bits by 32,000 addresses. So these can be used in these machines to do an internal memory upgrade. Again, always be very careful when you are disassembling one of these machines of the very delicate flat flex cables for the keyboard. You can buy replacement keyboards, but it's always better not to do the damage in the first place. So there we go. Okay, so here is our board, and this is an issue 3. So you have here a socket which currently contains a 4016, which is a 2K by 8 static RAM chip, but it has that's a 24-pin package. The socket is a 28-pin, so it will accept these 62256s. We just need to do a few things. Okay, on the Timex Sinclair 1000 and on some of the ZX81s, you'll have this 2K or a 1K memory chip in here. In others, you will have, if you can see here, there are vias, filled vias, and there's another set of them under this socket where you could have two 2114 SRAMs. So if you're going to do this memory upgrade, you might either need to remove the two 2114 SRAMs, and then the vias for this socket would be filled in as they are here. You'd need to clean those out, pop your socket in. But in this case, because we've got the Timex Sinclair 1000 and it's a 2K machine, we've got the socket already in place. So what we need to do to make this modification is actually relatively straightforward. We need to take out our existing SRAM chip, and we're going to be installing one of the 62256s. But since we're going for more space, we need to connect up the addressing. Now, in the case of the Timex Sinclair 1000 with 2K in it, they have already put this link here. You have LK1, LK2, and that determines if A10, which is the 11th address bit, is connected. So it already is in the case of the Sinclair 1000. Since we're at 2048 and we need to get to 16K, we need another 3 bits connected in the address bus. So how we're going to do that is we're not going to make any modifications to the board itself. It is possible to do a permanent mod, which involves cutting traces and putting bodge wires on the board. But what we're going to do instead is we're going to do a lifted pin method. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this chip, this 32K memory chip, and we're only going to use 16K of it. It is possible to get the full 32K. It requires more modifications, and it's really not all that useful. There's not much software for these machines that uses the full 32K. So what we need to do is bend up some of the pins so that they don't seat into the socket. And we are going to bend up pins 1. Pin 1 is always to the left of the notch. We're going to bend up pin 1. And we are going to bend up pin 23 and pin 26. So this is a 28 pin package. So this is pin 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. 25 and 26. So you see what I've done there is I've bent up pin 1, pin 23, and pin 26 so that they stick out. The rest of the pins will go into the socket. Now, if you do have a 1K machine, either a 1K, I'm not sure that the Timex Sinclair 1000 was ever made in 1K in a 1K version. But if you have a 1K version, you could either bend up pin 21 and connect it like we're going to do for the rest of these, or you could switch this link from link 1 to link 2. You'll find that it's in link 1 for the 1K version. I'm going to deoxit my socket. And then I'm going to fit this chip. And there we go. Now, all we need to do is make these remaining connections. To do that, I'm going to go ahead and tin up these lifted legs. And I'm going to use some wire wrap wire. I missed bending up a pin. I was following a blog that, well, it's a good blog, but it doesn't do things exactly the way I would have done them. So you can, with any RAM chip, you can put the address lines in any order you want, as long as when you try to read them, you use the same order as you wrote them in. So for sake of prettiness on the board, he actually has, for instance, he has address 14 and address 11 swapped around. Address 14 is pin 1. We're not going to be actually mounting anything to pin 1. Pin 2, however, we need. And he had that one going to VCC, being held high. And I would rather actually tie it to the correct address line. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to tie anything to pin 1 because that is address 14. Oh, actually, no, I need to give pin 1 5 volts because I need it to be tied high. But okay, now we're going to get our additional address signals from this set of diodes down here. Diode 1 right here is address line 11. Diode 5 right here is address 13. And then diode 3 right here is address 12. So I need to hook those up to pins 2, 26, and 23. We need to hook to the cathode end, which is the banded end of the diode. So I'm going to go ahead and tin those diodes up. So pin 2 is address line 12. And address line 12 is diode 3. All right. And 23 is address 11. And address 11 is diode 1. Which would make pin 26, address 13, which is diode 5. And then pin 1, I need to go to 5 volts. Okay, Not the prettiest thing in the world, but it should do the job. So let's get this back together and test it. Okay, time for a test. First, we're going to be looking for just the K cursor. Now do we get the K? No, so we've done something wrong. Continuity checking. So well, I'm going to have to do a little more looking into this. Okay, that wasn't so bad. I just had a solder bridge between a couple of the diodes. Let's go ahead and put it back in the shell again so I can show you the peak and make sure that we actually are registering the full 64 for the full 16K. Okay. Hey, if all goes well, this should say 32768 again. And it does. So we have a full 16K internal, and we no longer need this expansion card. So go ahead and load. And again, this will take a while, 2.5 minutes for this one. So I'll speed that along for you. Yep, there it is. 16K Pac-Man loaded onto the Sinclair 1000, Timex Sinclair 1000, aka the American cousin to the British ZX81. Let's see. Nope, it does run. It's just it's hard to control with these cursor keys. Of course, the Sinclair 1000, the ZX81, they don't have any provision for sound, no provision for joysticks, anything like that. So they're still a limited machine even after adding memory to them. But that's a much more usable machine with the 16K installed. And that'll do it for today. So I hope you enjoyed. If you did, go ahead and click the thumbs up button. I'd appreciate that. Leave a comment below if you have anything to say. I love the interaction with my viewers. Share the video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and click the notification bell so you get notified when I release new videos. Be sure to check out my friends 8-Bit Retro Refix, Joseph Retro Bits, Retro for You, and Captain Commodore. I will leave links in the description below. Also, The 5 of us are having a live a week from this Sunday. That is Sunday, May the 28th, 2023. That live will be from 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Time, or 7:30 p.m. Greenwich Time. And we'll be discussing anything that we've seen going on in the retro world, anything we've got going on in our worlds, and we will be happy to take questions and comments from the audience. So again, that's a week from Sunday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Time, and 7:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. And that'll do it. So everybody stay safe and be well. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.